minutes left, so I can play something else.
Yes, encore!
Yes.
Encore! Encore! I was thinking about saying encore.
Wow. That was great. Thank you. Good morning. My name's Glenn Weber, your worship leader for this morning's service, and this is Common Ground, our celebration of worship for people of many paths who gather to share in a responsible search for meaning and truth. This is a warm and open community where all who come with open minds and kind hearts are welcome, regardless of ability, age, race, gender identity, or sexual orientation. That all who join us today find this a safe place to worship. Now please greet the people next to you. You have an opportunity to greet everybody during our coffee hour. So when you hear the bell, please remain standing for a moment of silence, followed by our gathering song.
Morning, Glenn.
Good morning. Thank you. Yeah, the podium's not wide enough to... I'm wide enough, but that is... Yeah, thank you. That was great. You are good. Wow. Okay, good. So they should get to hear something. That is a hard instrument. How dare they? Okay. Please pause for a moment of silence. Now let's join the Come As You Are choir in our gathering song, My Life Flows On In Endless Song. This is the fire of our faith. Join me in reciting these words by Julianne Lepp as today's speaker, Colin Lemon, lights our chalice flame. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. I invite you to join me in a renewal of our sacred promises. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and to serve unity, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. Please be seated. And as you are seated, please move toward the walls to make it easier for folks still arriving to find seats. Also know you may enjoy the service remotely upstairs in the loft on a large screen TV. Startle, the story of an average yellow star. This skit helps to teach accepting self and others, balancing humility and pride, trust the ways of the universe, and learning that each one of us can contribute to the well-being of all. I think somebody's supposed to be quick. There we go. And we're there.
Up Science presents the elements of the periodic table.
There's hydrogen and helium, then lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon everywhere, nitrogen all through the air, oxygen so you can breathe, and fluorine for your pretty teeth, neon to light up the sign, sodium for salty times,
Magnesium,
aluminium, silicon,
phosphorus,
then sulfur, chlorine, then argon,
potassium,
and calcium so you'll grow strong,
scandium,
titanium, vanadium, and chromium, and manganese. This is the periodic table, no gas is stable. Halogens and alkali react aggressively. Each period will see new outer shell where electrons are added, moving to the right.
Hello. All right. Act 1 of Star Toll, the story of an average yellow star. Once upon a time, in our very own galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, an average yellow star was born. Amidst a cluster of bright blue sibling stars. Let us call this average yellow star Star Toll, because any star that is to be the hero of a story deserves to have a proper name.
Hello, my name is Startle, and I don't want to be an average yellow star.
Star Toll and its sibling stars were all born at the same time. They were jolted into existence by the exploding shock wave from a nearby supernova star that was dying. In this way, one generation of stars gives birth to the next. Thus, it seems, is the way of the universe.
I'm the same age as my sibling stars, but all of them are big, bright, the most beautiful color of all. Blue.
Star Toll, the average yellow star, looked a lot like our own star the sun would have looked at an early age. We Earthlings know that our sun is powerful. We know that the sun is big and that it is bright. But Star Toll didn't feel powerful. Star Toll felt small and dim and weak compared to its sibling stars, who were all big, blue, and 1,000 times brighter.
Oh, I want to be big. I want to be bright. And most of all, I want to be blue.
Soon after they were born, the sibling stars began to wander away from their place of birth, and from one another. After 20 million years, they were still close enough to carry on a conversation, but not for much longer. So Star Toll, the average yellow star, called out to one of its big, blue siblings.
Hey, Big Blue.
Hey, Starfall, what's up?
Not much. How about you?
Something strange is happening to me. I'm not sure what it is. I've been squeezing hydrogen and helium all my life.
Me too.
Well, I'm not doing much of that anymore.
What? If you're not making helium anymore, how do you stay so bright?
I seem to be squeezing helium into lots of other stuff, especially oxygen and some silicon and calcium.
I wonder if that will happen to me. After all, you and I are the same age, so I should be changing too.
Just then, a stranger wandered near the pair of sibling stars.
Perhaps I might be of assistance?
Who are you?
I am an elder yellow star. I am 5 billion years old.
Oh no, I am only 20 million years old. Does that mean I'm going to stay average and yellow forever? Like you?
Not quite forever, but long enough.
Hey, old star, you're upsetting my Sid. Just leave us alone.
Young one, I don't have time to explain, but be prepared for its tumble. I'll see you again after things settle down.
The elder yellow star swung around and headed back into the galaxy.
Starfall, often restraints like I'm getting sick. Maybe you should keep your distance.
Okay, Big Blue. I hope you feel better soon.
Star Toll turned and saw the elder yellow star retreating into the distance. Having nothing better to do, Star Toll began to follow. Then all of a sudden, there was a terrible explosion. Star Toll lost balance and began to tumble. Star Toll tumbled so fast and so far that when the young yellow star finally regained consciousness, it was right alongside the elder yellow star.
Oh, what happened?
Such a powerful shockwave and enormously bright light can mean only one thing. I am very sorry to report that one of your siblings has just gone supernova.
How can you be sorry? That bright light is awesome. I'd love to be able to do that too.
Supernova is indeed a noble path for a star. Supernovas generously send back into the galaxy all the complex atoms that they made during their short lives.
What do you mean by short life?
When a star goes supernova, it explodes violently and sends back into the galaxy most of what it has made inside itself. Things like oxygen and silicon and calcium.
Hey, that's what Big Blue is making. Aw. Big Blue is making oxygen and silicon and calcium, but I'm starting to feel sick.
Yes, my young friend, I am sorry to say that your sibling has died, and the others will die too very soon.
How can that be? My blue siblings are so much bigger than I ever was. They had so much hydrogen to use. They can't possibly have burned it all.
Oh, yes, they can. Think about it. If your big blue siblings are 1,000 times brighter than they are, then they must be using up their hydrogen fuel 1,000 times faster. That is why they are so bright, and so their lives are very short.
Startol grew quiet and very sad. The elder yellow star tried to offer some comfort.
Such is the way of the universe, my friends. We all die. Even so, we all have the opportunity to create something important before we go, and to leave our gifts for the next generations of stars to use.
Of what use is calcium? Of what use is oxygen? And of what use is stupid helium?
Oh dear, it looks like... Oh dear, it looks like another one of your siblings is about to go. There is no time left to continue our conversation. But I shall see you again, my young friend. In the meantime, I suggest you watch...
Just then, a shockwave from a second supernova explosion. Startol and the elder yellow star both lost their balance and began tumbling in different directions. The shockwave from the exploding supernova continues to travel, like waves in the ocean. I see the shockwave is moving farther into the galaxy. Oh yes, the shockwave is reaching all of you other stars out there right now. That's the end of Act 1. Let us begin to Act 2 of Startol, the story of an average yellow star. Our sad young star was now alone. Many years would pass, and thankfully, so would the grief. In fact, billions of years would pass before the two yellow stars would meet again. But this time, Startol would not recognize the older star.
Hello, my friend. I see that you have made something of yourself indeed.
You startled me. Who are you?
Of course you don't know me. Of course you don't recognize me, because I am no longer yellow. In my old age, I have turned red. I have become a red giant star.
Oh, it's you. Hey, I'm sorry I was rude to you back when I last saw you, like, 5 billion years ago.
You have matured very well, Startol.
Thanks.
I am thrilled to see that in your 5 billion years as an average yellow star, you have actually created more than I have done in 10 billion years.
What do you mean?
Oh, you must not have heard me when the second supernova shockwave struck us both. I tried to tell you to watch that third planet of yours.
Do you mean this little speck that keeps circling me?
Indeed.
It is colder than even the weakest of stars. How can anything exciting possibly happen there? It can't even make helium.
I suggest you examine that planet carefully.
It has turned a lovely shade of blue. Still lovely color blue, but no, I no longer wish to be anything other than yellow.
Look closer.
I see many things moving around on the brown and green stuff. I see different things moving in the big blue pools.
Ah, my friend, such is the way of the universe. You have produced a steady supply of starshine during all your years of squeezing hydrogen into helium. That starshine permitted life to evolve on that planet of yours. Well done.
Whoa! I created life!
Let's all congratulate Startol on a job well done.
Wow, I can see now that being average, dim, and yellow is actually better than being big, bright, and blue.
Not so fast, my friend. Look at your planet again and then answer this question. What is the atom that makes the bones inside these moving things strong?
I don't know.
Who can help Startol learn which kind of atom makes bones strong?
Calcium!
Yes, it is calcium that makes strong bones. Now, Startol, answer this question. What atom is at the very center of the red blood cells in those moving things?
I don't know. Iron!
Yes, it is iron that is in the blood of those creatures. Now tell me this, Startol. Where did those calcium and iron atoms come
I don't know. Blue stars! I understand. Calcium and iron are made inside of big blue stars, so all of us are important. Okay, never mind.
Look again at your little planet and answer this question. What atom is inside every cell of every living creature?
I don't know.
Carbon.
Indeed, carbon is precisely what I am now creating as a red giant star.
That is a wonderful gift. Will I ever make carbon?
Yes, but that won't happen for a very long time. During the next 5 billion years, you will remain as an average yellow star. But you will be an average yellow star with a very important responsibility.
I will do my job well. I will keep sending starshine to my life on my little planet.
Very good. Now, my friend, I must go.
Why?
It will soon be time for me to recycle back into the galaxy the gift of carbon I have created. And maybe, just maybe, an average yellow star who is yet to be born will be surrounded by planets. Perhaps one of those planets will put to use the carbon atoms that I create. Perhaps that planet will evolve life.
But will you have to die for that to happen?
Yes, but my way of dying will be much gentler than that of a supernova explosion. Even so, much of what I have created will go back into the galaxy.
Are you afraid to die?
I used to be afraid, but now that I am old, I am very satisfied with the star life I have already lived. As a red giant, what matters to me most is that this whole amazing process continues. I want new stars to continue to be born. I want life to continue to evolve. I am sure that you will feel the same way in another 5 billion years.
So, I'm going to die too?
Such is the way of the universe. Everything dies eventually. And that is what makes possible this whole grand circle of life. Without death, there could possibly be no more birth.
The circle of life. I think I understand that part.
My friend, know this. Another 5 billion years will pass before it is your time to recycle the stardust atoms you have created. So, carry on. Carry on as a magnificently average yellow star. And continue with your cosmic task of helping one of your planets evolve life.
You can count on me for that.
The red giant star, who was once just an average yellow star, turned away and began to wander gracefully into the abyss. Startle watched its friend grow dimmer and dimmer until there was nothing left to see. Perhaps the star had simply ventured out of sight. Or perhaps the red giant had shed its cloak of hydrogen and helium and carbon and was cooling into a very dim white dwarf. Millions of years would pass. Startle continued to make more helium and was very busy watching how life evolved on its little planet. Startle often remembered with affection the elder yellow star, and Startle remembered too its big, bright blue siblings, all of whom had long ago died in glorious supernova explosions. One day, while wandering through the galaxy, Startle saw a very young and very average yellow star in the distance. You know what happens next. Startle began to move towards the young star. Such is the way of the universe. The end.
Now, cast it up here. And those guys and that guy. Oh, yeah.
Okay. The Children's RE, session number 3, turning attention to now, the practice of mindfulness. The focus question is, how can we be centered? And practice, the skill of practicing mindfulness. And the session goal is to learn about meditation and mindfulness as a way to pay attention. The children will participate in a pebble meditation, which was commonly taught by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. The children will listen to the story Moody Cow about a cow that was having a bad day until he learns how to settle his mind and let go of his frustrations. It's a smart cow. I wish I could do that. The craft of the day is making a mindfulness jar. Next week, the Children's RE Session 4, his attention to beauty around us, the practice of gratitude. Today, the youth will discuss different jobs we can take on in the church and watch the Truman Show to discuss what is reality and what is fake. How mindful is Truman and the people who watch him? Next week, the youth group will continue to watch the Truman Show. At this time, children are invited to take part in religious education. Let us send them out with these words. We pass this flame of religious freedom from generation to generation. Our call to worship today is by George Kimmich Beach. In the mystery of life about us, there is light. It gives us a place to be, to grow, to rejoice together. It opens the pathways to love. In this place of friendship, there is freedom. Let the light we kindle go before us, strong in hope, wide in goodwill, inviting the day to come. Now, once again, please stand in body and spirit and join the Come As You Are choir in our worship song, Blue Boat Home.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel. And the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat.
Our speaker this morning is our own Colin Lemon. Yes, please be seated. Colin is a learning delivery specialist with the Boy Scouts of America. Colin also works as the Boy Scouts of America's National Staff Advisor to the Unitarian Universalist Association and is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association National Scouting Committee. Prior to his career in scouting, Colin traveled as a scuba instructor to Europe, Iceland, Canada, the Caribbean, Hawaii, and Polynesia. Wow. That's incredible. Colin graduated from American Military University with a Bachelor in Science in Environmental Geology and has completed graduate work in environmental policy and nonprofit management. As a volunteer, Colin serves as the committee chair of Cub Scout Pack 1013 and webmaster for Pathways Church. Colin's direct experiences of mystery and wonder include not only his travels and experiences, but especially his wife Stephanie and his children Abby and Eric. Now please welcome Colin.
Good morning. Just now, Stephanie made a comment about how tall the flame was, and I said, well, it was lit by an Eagle Scout, so wouldn't that make sense? Makes perfect sense. About a year and a half ago, I had a very interesting conversation with the Deputy Chief Scout Executive of the Boy Scouts of America. He had invited me to meet with him so he could learn about Unitarian Universalism, which by itself was pretty awesome. We talked about the duty to God principle that the Boy Scouts of America holds as a sacred foundation of the program and what it really means. I shared with him the 6 sources of wisdom and spirituality of Unitarian Universalism, but I focused primarily on the direct experiences of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. When I was 20 years old, I drove 800 miles in what looked like a car, sort of, but I made it, from my home in South Carolina to the Florida Keys to become a scuba instructor. You can tell that this lifestyle was new to me by the sharp contrast between the dark canopy of the boat and the shockingly pale color of my skin, which improved over some time. This was the beginning of a journey that took me from living in the Virgin Islands to sailing on cruise ships from the Caribbean to Hawaii and from Iceland to Polynesia. It was a time of my most immature moments, but also the best education that I could ever hope for. The number of direct experiences of mystery and wonder I had during these few years is hard to count. I think about all the people that I met and the languages I heard and castles that I got to see, things like that. And they're a little harder to remember than the experiences that I had that invoked that sense of mystery and wonder. For example, there are few experiences that'll match what you feel when you stand on the top deck of a ship in the Atlantic in the middle of the night and have your breath taken away at the sheer number of stars around you. Or seeing in pitch black night from a distance the glowing red lava flow down the side of a volcano as you sail around the Hawaiian Islands. In that conversation with the Deputy Chief about the 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism, I shared a conversation I had had a few days earlier with my mother about what God is to her. I knew I was going to have this meeting, and it was going to be about duty to God and what that means to scouts, what that means to leaders, what it means to anybody. And so I knew when I was growing up in Scouts, I've been in Scouts since I was 6, and my dad was there with me the entire time, every meeting, every camping trip, all the time. My mom was there when there was a ceremony or a celebration, but she wasn't in it. And it never really bothered me. But as I got older, it really started to occur to me that maybe she wasn't really on board with this. She was in it, she was supportive, but she wasn't really there. And maybe it had something to do with the Boy Scouts' duty to God. And so I thought, well, I'm going to call her and ask her about it. So I called her and I told her that I was having this meeting and this guy's, somewhat important in the organization, and that maybe something I say will have an impact with him. And I said, so did you have a problem with me growing up saying I will do my duty to God? She's an atheist. As far as I knew, that was the only word I knew to describe her. And she said, no, that never bothered me at all, which shocked me. I thought that was the key. That was the one reason that she wasn't really there. I think what kept her from it was things like when I came home as a sixth grader and told her that I had been named the chaplain aide. That may have brought her some pause. I don't know. But I asked her about that, and I said, so why wouldn't it bother you that I was saying duty to God, even though I didn't know what that meant? If you were here for my first ever presentation a year and a half ago, I called it naive theism, growing up in the Boy Scouts as a non-believer, because I had no idea. I had no clue what it meant, and why should I? I started when I was 6. She said it never bothered me because to me, God is when I walk outside and I see a beautiful sunrise. And that's God. That doesn't mean that there's a deity that created it. Maybe there is. I don't believe that. But to me, that's God, when I walk outside and see a beautiful sunrise. So I told him that story, and his response was, wow, that sounds like a great definition of God, which was pretty awesome to hear that from him. So my first real experience that I can go back to of wonder and mystery during my travels was when I was living in the Virgin Islands. I was walking to work one day, and I saw this beautiful sunrise. The picture is terrible, because I was not a photographer, and I think this was a disposable camera. I don't even know if they make those anymore. But the sunrise was a pure silver, and it was something I'd never seen before. So it looks silver here, and you'd think, wow, that's because he's a terrible photographer. But no, it was a pure silver color. At the same time, a sandstorm had blown west from Africa. The dome of Montserrat had collapsed and sent ash all over the Caribbean. The two phenomena had worked together to create this incredibly unique sunrise. It's one of those experiences. You can walk through the woods and you can understand how everything around you is beautiful, but then there's that one thing that happens where you actually have to stop walking and just look at it, and that was what this experience was. If you're not familiar with Montserrat, it's a volcanic island in the Caribbean that became active in the mid-90s and still is, and it destroyed the capital town there of Plymouth. It's gotten down to as low as about 1,200 people. I think it's growing again now. This was a helicopter tour that I got to do a few years later over the island, and we couldn't go over the dome because, as you can see, it's still active. The power of nature demonstrated in these pictures is yet another source of mystery and wonder. You don't have to believe in a deity to be amazed by what you see by the power of nature. And the power of a volcano is explainable, but that doesn't make it any less amazing or awe-inspiring. Some of the most amazing things to me in my life have been sharks. And that started, I think, when I was 10, and my parents were watching Jaws, and I was supposed to be in bed. And I was hiding behind the couch, because why not? And most people see that movie and go the opposite direction of the ocean. But for me, that started, I don't know, it started some kind of amazement with sharks. And since then, I've loved them. I wanted to be a shark biologist. That's actually why I studied Latin for 4 years in high school and 2 in college, was so I'd know how to name my shark when I discovered it. Needless to say, I don't study sharks. But I loved them. I don't know why it started that way, but they're just such amazing creatures. I watched Shark Week growing up. I don't now. You shouldn't. It's not as good as it sounds. But I'm amazed by what they can do. I'm amazed by how long they've survived. Does anybody know how long ago dinosaurs disappeared? Just rough guess. You don't have to name the month or anything. Since they disappeared, about 65 million years. Sharks showed up in the record around 400 million years ago. So they've been alive longer than most anything. The wonder and mystery of something so perfectly evolved never ends, especially if you believe that there was no intention behind it other than survival. If you ever want to experience the feeling of not being at the top of evolution or the top of the food chain, go on a shark dive like I did in Roatan, Honduras. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been, above and below the water. I was never scared of them, just in awe of them. I've even been bitten a few times, although by sharks much smaller than these. But even having an encounter that ends in a bite invokes a sense of gratitude, at least for me, of how lucky I am to have encountered something so amazing. I don't have a picture of it or anything, but one of the jobs that I had during this time of my life was I worked at Ripley's Aquarium in Myrtle Beach. I was one of the divers, and I've got a video on Facebook of me while we're cleaning one of the tanks fending off these sharks that look terrifying. They're the sharks that people use when they want you to be scared of sharks. They're the pictures with the sharp. They're nothing, but they're scary, and they're 8, 9, 10 feet long, and there's a video of them just swimming by me. And it's almost like having a ship flow by you just because of the power that you feel, either physically or not physically. Just seeing something so amazing swim by you and not eat you, that's amazing too. But it is amazing to be around them. If that's not enough about sharks to amaze you, then you can think about the sheer power of the largest shark to have ever lived, holding a tooth larger than a shot glass, and imagining what it would have been like to witness a living megalodon is terrifying, especially since you can't prove they're gone, right? So if you're out in the ocean. But again, even though it's terrifying, it's also amazing and mysterious. Something to be in awe of. How many here have seen the movie The Abyss? Older movie. Awesome movie. While I was traveling, I got to experience something that was truly breathtaking. The Abyss was filmed in a bunch of different places, mostly in North Carolina, which I didn't know until a couple of days ago. But it took place, the setting of the story was the Cayman Trough, which is one of the deepest parts of the Caribbean. Goes down to around 6,000+ feet deep in the Caribbean. There was a dive that I was able to do in Grand Cayman, and it was at a dive site called the North Wall. And this is a dive that will sell you on diving. If you took pictures of this, if you're a good storyteller, this is what will convince you to finally go scuba diving, or will convince you to never go scuba diving. This is a dive where, for the most of the dive, you're around 90 to 95 feet deep, and you're swimming in a channel between two walls of coral with sand below you. And so you're looking to the left and looking to the right, and you're seeing all the coral. You're seeing maybe some sharks. You're seeing barracuda, tropical fish, all of these things. And it seems like a fairly routine dive. You're just swimming along, looking at all of these things, not necessarily paying attention to what's below you, because that's just sand. So it's not quite as exciting. Until you realize that you've swam out over the edge, and you've gone from 90 feet deep to now you're looking at a 6,000-foot drop. If the vastness of space that you witness on a dark night in the middle of the Atlantic doesn't make you feel small and question your place in the universe, too much scouting, maybe watching the seafloor disappear into the abyss right below you will. So do me a favor and close your eyes and just imagine all around you in the front, the back, to the left and the right, deep blue color. Not a lot of fish. You've left the coral reef, so it's just deep, deep blue. And that will place you into a feeling of, what am I really? Where is my place? Now, look down and see it even darker or even pitch black. That could be very terrifying to most people, to know that there is nothing around you and that it's nothing to the bottom until you get to the abyss. It's dark blue, but eventually black. You can open your eyes now. You don't have to terrified you enough. It's enough to make you think, wow, this is amazing. I'm going to turn around and swim back to where I'm over the sand. Excuse me, I'm fighting a throat thing. I was hoping I wouldn't lose my voice. One of the trips when I was working for the cruise line, we were going from Europe to Iceland down to Canada and New England. And we sailed around Canada and New England for 2 months. And one of the times we were out in the North Atlantic, not too far from where the Titanic rests now. I should have asked Marissa to play Nearer My God to Thee or something like that. That would have been a little depressing, though. But we're in that territory, and when the captain decides, I think he was having a little fun with the passengers, because why not? he got on the loudspeaker to all these people, 2,000 or 3,000 people on the ship who can't go anywhere. They're stuck on the boat with him. And he announces how amazing it is that right now we are sailing over 11,000 feet of water. And that did not settle well with a lot of the people on that ship. But he also mentioned in the same breath, but I've checked the horizon and there are no icebergs. So he goes, a Norwegian captain just having fun with a bunch of American tourists. One of my most memorable experiences was a day that I had in Iceland. We were crossing from Europe to Canada and New England, and we only got to stay in Iceland for one day, but that's more than enough if you've never experienced it. It was Iceland that inspired me the most to focus on geology and earth science later in college. This is a place where you can stand with one foot on the North American continental plate and the other foot on the Eurasian plate. Not in this spot, obviously, but maybe closer to this spot right here. But you can stand on two different continental plates where they're literally splitting below you. You can't watch it. It's slow, of course. But that's a unique spot, and it's a unique spot in the ocean because it's at the very top of the Atlantic. On another section of the island, the Eurasian plate is off in the distance. I'm standing on the North American plate, of course, and the Eurasian plate is over here. And so what you're witnessing there is where the Earth is splitting and creating new land, and the ocean is trying to take it over. There's actually a town in the middle of this. I don't know why you... I guess in the short term it's okay. While we were touring around the island, we stopped on a cliff, and there were no significant, there wasn't the Blue Lagoon, there were no glaciers in the distance or anything like that. We just stopped on a cliff, and the tour guide told us to get out and to show us something, and we couldn't really tell what it was. But he pointed off a few hundred yards offshore to a small island, and this is an island maybe the size of a Walmart, just a tiny rock island. The island was here 5 years ago, which was amazing to me then. That's the kind of stuff that I remember now. Some people that I met that were amazing, I don't remember their names, but I remember that experience of knowing that something that large didn't exist 5 years ago because of the volcanic activity that happens in that area. I've never been to a more amazing place than Iceland, which is hard to compare because they're all amazing in their own ways. But it's never been to a more amazing place because it's so magical. If you've seen The Lord of the Rings, the movie series, if they didn't film that in New Zealand, they could have filmed it here. There's so many different things to see, wild ponies and geysers and glaciers off in the distance and brand new islands. It's a pretty amazing place. There's nowhere else that I've been that inspires such a feeling of mystery and wonder. To step on a place where the planet is literally being reborn every day is an honor and worthy of reverence. There's too much to see in the world to not explore. There's so much out there. I'm amazed by anyone who is not amazed. Some of us believe in karma, God, reincarnation, other mystic forces. It's hard to say which, if any, of those beliefs are correct or truly bring us comfort. What we can all appreciate, though, is that there's plenty of mystery and wonder in the universe, which is not necessarily meant to bring us comfort at all. Maybe there's no meaning to that mystery and wonder other than to keep us guessing. When Abby was 1 or 2 years old, Stephanie and I decided that since we'd never subscribed to any belief system of any kind ourselves, that we should probably at least start exploring those questions so that we might be able to give some guidance to our child one day. We went from Baha'i to Buddhism, started reading books about spirituality. We knew what we did not believe in, but for us it's much harder to figure out what we do believe in. For myself, I don't know if I'll ever truly find a belief system that involves mystic or supernatural forces. What I do know is that nature, and specifically the ocean, will always hold a powerful and special place in my heart and in my mind. I don't worship them. I don't pray to them. I don't give offerings to them. But I do respect them, and I revere them. I'm amazed by them. I yield to the mystery and wonder of them. Aside from love, Nature and all of its processes are the most powerful forces in the universe that I have personally witnessed. Aside from the loving community of pathways, it is that first of 6 sources, the direct experiences of mystery and wonder. They're what draw me to Unitarian Universalism, because no matter what we believe, we all have those experiences. If you are a skeptic and you aren't amazed by what you see in the world and the universe, then that itself, for me, is a source of mystery and wonder. Thank you.
Think of 2 words when I saw the shark swimming around you. Hell no. I am so afraid of those things. His pictures scare me.
Do you want to hang on to this?
Let me see.
Just take this home with you. Have some dreams about it. There you go.
Oh my God. This thing weighs a lot.
That's a small one.
I definitely am afraid of them. As we have received, so we are asked to give. Please use the offering envelopes provided. Green envelopes are for pledges or gifts to Pathways, and gold envelopes are for donations to our outreach partner. Our outreach partner for October, November, and December is Meals on Wheels of Tarrant County.
Bottom of my soul, I'm digging way down deep. Yes, I am. I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. There's clear water running through me. I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. I'm digging way down deep. Yes, I am. I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. There's clear water running through me. Ain't got no answers, got a whole lot of questions, and nothing on the surface seems to satisfy me. Can't find it on the outside, got to feel it on the inside, and dig down deeper in mystery. So I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. I'm digging way down deep. Yes, I am. I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. There's clear water running through me. Terror strikes me in the middle of the night, and even arms around my body can't comfort me. My heart is thirsting for that cool drink of water. Got to pull out my shovel, get busy. So I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. I'm digging way down deep. Yes, I am. I'm digging way down to the bottom of my soul. There's clear water running through me. Cool, clear water flowing through me, washing all my fears away. Cool, clear water flowing through me, moving me up towards the light of day. Daybreak finds me in the morning light, and it's hard to hold on to what set me free. I go down to the river 'cause it helps me remember to dig down deeper in time of me.
Thank you for your generous gifts, kindly and freely given this morning and by mail throughout the month to support this congregation in our outreach efforts. Your offering is truly appreciated. This week we highlight the volunteers who represent Pathways to the North Texas Unitarian Universalist Congregations, NTUC organization. NTUC consists of 13 Unitarian Universalist congregations of North Texas area. Its mission is to support, serve, and strengthen our member congregations. The Pathways representatives are David Pollard, president of NTUC, Mary McMahon, and Alec Winter, an alternate. I'm stumbling a little bit. We hope that each of you on your individual path through the joys and questions of life found some common ground with your fellow travelers here at Pathways here today. As Colin extinguishes our chalice flame, let us join in these words by Marta L. Munson. We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently into our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. To all our first-time visitors, if you would like to learn more about Pathways, stay around after worship and talk with us. We'd love to meet you. Be sure to share your contact information with us at the welcome table in the foyer. If you like, sign up on our website for our weekly e-newsletter to be informed of events coming up at Pathways. There are meetings and events here at Pathways throughout the week. Here are just a few along with other announcements. For our full lineup, see Pathways Weekly or the events calendar on our website, pathwaysuu.org. Also, take home the order of service sheet on your chairs because it has the dates of upcoming events on the announcement side. For the month of November, the Pathways Women's Book Club is reading and discussing Educated by Tara Westover, a memoir of the author's years growing up in a fundamentalist Mormon family in Idaho. The book group meets the first and third Thursdays of each month at 1 p.m. at Pathways. Newcomers are always welcome. Pathways Addiction Ministry will be starting a new group, 712 for Families and Friends. Our introduction will be a video essay by Kevin McCauley, MD, Pleasure Unwoven, next Sunday, November 24th, 2019, at 11:30 a.m. in the sanctuary, to be followed by questions and answers. Meeting time for 712 for Families and Friends will be discussed. And come join us. Good stuff. Thanksgiving offers us all an opportunity for reflection and gratitude, sharing and being together in community. Please consider sharing your home this Thanksgiving Day with guests from our Pathways family. A sign-up sheet is available in the Pathways foyer for hosts to sign up, with an indication of how many guests you can accommodate. A sign-up sheet for guests is also available. Vegan Thanksgiving, hiking and eating celebration at Marty and Ted's. Enjoy a plant-based potluck Thanksgiving. Everyone at Pathways is welcome to join us to celebrate Thanksgiving with a nature hike and a delicious plant-based potluck meal on Thanksgiving, Thursday, November 28th. 5-mile hike begins at 10:30 a.m. at Eagle Mountain Lake Park and Nature Preserve. Plant-based potluck begins at 2:30 at Ted and Marty's. Watch the football game, play games, have fun. RSVP via text message to 817-729-4752. You have to all memorize that. No one in our Pathways family should feel alone on Thanksgiving. Coming soon, Pathways Arts Collaborative Annual Holiday, B-U-U-Teak. Here's, B, big U, big U. So B-U-U, Boutique, Bu-U-Teak, whatever. That's how it's written. Here's your chance to buy something handmade by the Arts Collaborative and get your holiday shopping done. We will also be selling tickets for our 3rd annual quilt raffle. The quilt was handmade and donated by Valerie Campbell and will be raffled on December 13th. The boutique will be open December 1st and 8th from 9:15 to 10 and from 11 to 11:30. All money from the sale goes directly to Pathways. Okay, Cub Scout Pack 1013 is nearing its second anniversary, and the Scouts are getting older. As they get older, there will be a need for troops to provide the older age program, Scouts BSA. Scouts BSA, formerly Scouts, is a program for 11 to 17-year-old boys and girls. As we explore how we can start a boy troop and girl troop, we would like to know if we have 11 to 17-year-old boys and girls in the Pathways family who are interested in joining the scouting program. A survey was shared on Pathways Facebook group. Please complete this survey if you have 11 to 17-year-old boys and girls who might be interested. The Resistance Revival Chorus is now forming. This is a pop-up group of women in white intent on making an impact at vigils, demonstrations, protests, and anywhere that a voice for justice and humanity should be heard. Rehearsals are every Sunday, 2 to 3 p.m. at Pathways. Like and follow the group on Facebook, Resistance Revival Chorus Fort Worth. Milestones is a time to share our news with our Pathways family. The Cub Scouts of Pack 1013 have completely finished their 2019 popcorn sale with a grand total of $21,792 in sales. Wow. Wow. Of course, it's like 5 bags of that popcorn. This will net around $8,000 for the PAC's annual budget, which will allow them to have an awesome program. Thank you to the Pathways family for your support of the Cub Scout program and their popcorn sale. I like the jalapeno. Tempted. We'd like to congratulate Marissa Broom for a wonderful recital this past Sunday. Now that's a hard instrument to play, and she just made it sound so beautiful. It's fantastic. Thank you for everyone who attended the annual Steve Brooks.
I just wanted to say that we had a large showing. Not everybody was on the picture. If you go back, we did have Jessica and Kaylee were there, and Franklin and his 2 lovely daughters were there as well. So we had a nice big showing with Marissa. She was amazing.
And thank you for everyone who attended the annual Steve Brooks Coffee House. Oh. Congratulations, Kaylee, who turned the big 10 years old on November 10th. After we break for coffee and conversation, we continue with our adult discussion groups. Harry Driesner's meets here in the sanctuary. Matthew Tresher will start a discussion on Gen Z claps back, the rise of meme warfare and generational disparity. That sounds interesting. Meet upstairs. This is a group for adults to celebrate and deepen their individual spiritual journey. It is open to all seekers from any path and is a safe place to speak your truth in a circle of trust. Visitors and newcomers are welcome and encouraged to attend either of these adult discussion groups. Soul Matters will meet in classroom number 1 for those who are registered. Reading the Bible Again for the first time book group will meet in classroom 2 for those who are registered. Parents, please pick up your children from the nursery and Ari immediately after Common Ground so that all ages can share in the fellowship and food. The nursery will reopen at 11:30 for the adult discussion groups. And now please stand as you are willing and able and join the Come As You Are choir in singing our closing hymn, Come and Go With Me. Our closing words today are by Marjorie Newland Leeming. Remembering that the universe is so much larger than our ability to comprehend, let us go forth from this time together with the resolve to stop trying to reduce the incomprehensible to our own petty expectations, so that wonder, the sense of what is sacred, can find space to open our minds and illuminate our lives. Blessed be, and go in peace.
Go in peace.